Episode 5 of The Last of Us had it all. Unique, non-linear storytelling, great character building, thematic resonance, heartbreak, pain, and of course, the show's biggest, wildest, zombie-filled action scene to date. After first hearing their names last week, we meet the mysterious Henry and Sam a few weeks in the past. They're hiding from Kathleen and her army who've just taken over Kansas City from Fedra. What happens next in the first third of the episode is a prime example of how this episode number 5 and last week's episode number 4 play off each other. Here, we see Kathleen learn about the person who's been harboring Henry and Sam. However, we already saw him die last week. We then see Henry and Sam reach the doctor's hideout, which, if you remember, we already saw her find. Both are instances of clever, maybe even too subtle ways to tell this particular story with dramatic irony. Then, of course, we get to see Joel and Ellie's crash-landing arrival into Kansas City, but from Henry and Sam's perspective. And after learning more about who Henry and Sam are, it flips the entire emotional spectrum we already inferred from the ending of last week's episode. Initially, episode 4's cliffhanger led you to believe Ellie and Joel were in danger while being held at gunpoint. But now, after everything we've seen in this week's episode, our sympathies shift and extend because we know just how desperate Henry and Sam are for help and how empty their threat of violence is. Again, it's just a unique and beautifully crafted way to enrich and tell this story. After Joel and Ellie team up with Henry and Sam to escape Kansas City, Henry finally reveals why Kathleen is after him. We already knew that he ratted out her brother, but the truth of it is so much more complex. He did it as a last resort to save his own brother, Sam, who needed medicine for leukemia. It was an impossible choice, and Henry isn't sure if that makes him a good guy or a bad guy. The episode even extends that moral ambiguity to Kathleen herself, who talks about how after Henry betrayed her brother, Michael asked her to spare Henry. Her brother, Michael, was good, but she knows she is not and feels very conflicted over it. That gray area of morality, a key thematic throughline in all of The Last of Us, is painted over almost all of the characters for the first 2/3 of this episode. It leaves you with a lot to think about and consider, and then shit really hits the fan. Once Kathleen and her army find our heroes, hundreds of infected erupt from the ground, including a first look at the iconic Last of Us villain, a bloater. The scene is intense, exciting, gross, the peak of what this adaptation can be from a pure adrenaline-infused entertainment standpoint. But, as I've said before, and I'm sure I'll say again, this is The Last of Us, and it is not a run-and-gun zombie show. After that big action set piece, things quiet down, and Ellie and Sam have a touching heart-to-heart where he reveals he's been bitten and she tries to help him. Of course, Ellie couldn't help Sam, and when he turns, Henry is forced to shoot his brother in the head. After all that, after everything he gave up, Henry just can't save his brother. And the moment is so crushing for him, he takes his own life. It's a shocking, terrifying moment that we see through Ellie's eyes. It changes her. Every great show, from Breaking Bad to The Sopranos to Lost to The Walking Dead, has those moments where a character changes for the worse, where they hit a point and can never come back. Jesse's first murder, Tony killing his best friend, Rick at Alexandria.
Me? You mean me?
It happens to the best and worst of them. For Joel, this happened decades ago. But by the end of episode 5, it's happened for Ellie. She's changed. She watched two people she truly cared for die right in front of her. She's seen the personification of hopelessness. And as a result, she's even more broken now than she ever was before. And to see all that unfold through such a complex, sad, but also rewarding and entertaining episode of television was really a treat. It's going to be tough to beat Frank and Bill, but I think Henry and Sam come pretty close. It was a great episode, not just of The Last of Us, but of television in general. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and check out other IO9 videos here on YouTube.